You're alive.
Okay, this is the
Now I can wave.
February 17th, 2022 meeting of the Webster Planning Board. And the first thing we're going to do is take attendance. So I'm going to go around the table. Start with Adam Mock,
Yeah, here.
Paul King,
I here.
Craig Fournier.
Marlo Herrick.
Susan Youngs.
Kathy Bacon.
Thank you for coming. Do you have a copy of the agenda?
The agenda is
I do.
basically
There it is.
one item
Yeah, okay. That's it.
tonight.
I
Where
got it,
George is
yeah.
doing the minutes.
Okay, one other item of business here. I'm gonna be gone next month, so I've asked Paul to chair the meeting next month. So, what we have, the main thing tonight, is the 2018 master plan had some recommendations.
I have the recommendations here.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items.
I've got them on my.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to just read,
I can go walk.
I'll just read them off, and let's discuss it afterwards. Let's get through the list, and then we can have an open discussion about whatever you want to talk about. Okay, so the first item is develop zoning and subdivision regs for historical structures. Amend subdivision regulations to prohibit building on slopes greater than 25%. Amend subdivision regulations to require at least 1 acre of contiguous dry land. Require all major subdivisions have an appropriate vegetative buffer to protect scenic views. Develop cluster housing zoning districts to allow for housing developments with more density. Develop a zoning education program. Establish policies and guidelines to be used by the planning board when considering new development that may impact local roads. And consider a village district along 127 for greater development density with mixed uses that might permit light commercial. I'm going to just open it up and anybody can talk about what they're concerned about.
I think cluster housing sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, does everybody know what cluster housing is?
We got that nice little picture.
I know, but it's,
Well, cluster housing is a good idea, but are we going to maintain the 5-acre lot minimum? Or are we
No.
going to lower
No.
it down to,
No.
I think
By definition, it seems like
I
cluster
think-
housing would not be.
Right.
yeah.
wouldn't it be they either did cluster housing or they did the 5 acre?
Yeah.
That's what I thought it would be.
Well, I look at it this way. Right now we have 5 acres with a 250-foot frontage, and it's not going to be very long before
it's going to go down?
there isn't much of that left, right? All the roads are going to have houses on them, and then what do you do?
Well, see, and I feel like in this town, which is somewhat unique, we have a lot of private land that is old family land. And granted, I'm not saying that, there's not different people that are going to say, we're going to take it and we want to do something different, or I call it cash out on it in a sense. But the one problem with Webster is there isn't a whole lot of property for sale. So some of our zoning and some of our rules make it that much more difficult for like a family member to say, hey, I want to be able to subdivide this for my kid over here. You know what I mean? And so personally, I'm not a person to want to tell people, I feel like we should live free or die. That's just me, okay? And with this is not a bad thing, because, there's not times that we haven't had to did it on some of our other properties in other towns. But the 5-acre zoning, that's the lot too. So let's say I want to subdivide something and, so my son or my daughter or somebody can live over here, this prohibits it too. So
I don't,
What
I don't
prohibits
follow
it?
that.
Well, meaning, like, for example, let's say I just want to give them a 2-acre lot.
Oh, you mean the 5
Yeah,
acre thing?
yeah.
You were
Yeah.
pointing at that.
I'm
I
sorry,
thought you
and I
meant
do that, I
cluster.
jump around, so thank you.
You were pointing at the cluster
Yeah,
picture, so I was
well,
sorry.
because one minute you can cluster, which is, I'm not against either, because it does create open land for other people to use, but I also think it seems kind of weird to then restrict people that if I want to subdivide a piece to a family member or somebody, that I have to be more than 5 acres, but if I want to cluster it, you see
I
where,
follow you.
yeah, see
I
what I'm
get that.
saying? Yeah.
You're gonna
But I
have to
mean,
have a
that's-
10-acre piece to get it cut in half, where you could go in and blow on 10 acres, 5,
Right.
6 houses.
Right.
That's
So
what-
that's
What is the acreage requirement for a cluster?
Well, we have none.
I mean, that's what I don't think these things are really settled yet.
Right.
I want to say, I think we need to look at what would we like to achieve? And from the master planning discussions, what I came down to realize was that the 5-acre limit is also making it more expensive for people to buy. We're not attracting younger families, things like that, and that's really what Webster needs. So that the cluster development, or whatever you want to call it, however that, I think we need to expand that so that other types of families can be here.
Agreed,
Yeah.
but if we're gonna do that, then I feel like that we should pull back a little bit on the 5-acre zoning, because I don't feel I don't wanna force somebody to say, okay, I'm gonna use the proper language. I was gonna say something I shouldn't. Oh my God, I'm gonna do a cluster. I know. Oh my God, I'm gonna do a cluster, because I can't even subdivide 5 acres off here or 5 acres off here. So I feel like this could meet and be a compromise that things should be adjusted if we're gonna do this, then the 5-acre zoning should lighten up some.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, right now, there are no regulations.
But right. But you see what I'm seeing, is in the master plan, we wanna do this. Well, fair or whatever, we don't want to punish people that want to be able to distribute property and make it more like a 5-acre lot, less than 5 acres, so that they can, in their own way, they may be preserving land themselves.
One thing that is an advantage to something like that,
The cluster?
Yeah, is that it's one entrance to the main
Right.
road. Whereas if we start making the lot smaller and smaller, especially on 127, then we're gonna have driveway cuts
Yep.
awfully close together, and that would be an issue. But I don't know about the 5 acres.
The only thing different about 127 is because it is a highway, in the state, a lot of times it's shared driveways. Where we don't do, I don't
Right.
believe.
Right down there,
Yeah.
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 We do share driveways.
Oh, we do, okay,
So
okay.
when,
Thank you, Paul.
as I understand it, that who lived here when the 5-acre requirement went into place? Because I understood that was done at some point because they felt the land was being developed too quickly and they wanted to slow that down. But then that had the unintended effect of like reducing the number of families and things like that.
But
So
that,
were-
we're not
was
the
anybody
only
here?
town either, something like
That's what I'm
this,
saying,
yeah.
was anybody here? Because that's.
Because I think I kind of asked you, right, Russell,
So-
where did the 5-acre zoning come from?
I think Catherine's correct. I've probably
just
to look
like-
in the minutes to find the exact reason.
Right.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Were you here, Paul?
I was.
It's
You were
been,
here.
it's been in
So-
effect as long as I've been on the planning board, yes.
Right.
it used to be 2.5,
Right.
2 acres, and it wasn't 250 feet of frontage, way back.
It was 150 back then.
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
and
Was it
life
like
was
this-
all right.
Well,
So-
this is what I'm saying. is
Right.
that I think it would be good to go back and look at whatever discussions were
Yeah,
there
I
at
agree.
that point.
Yep,
And maybe not completely go back, but we should reevaluate those.
You'd be better off to go back to the smaller lot than the cluster, because you do that cluster housing and you're
Yep.
gonna have to have a school bus picking them kids up. And I'll give you a good example, if I did 2 of them on my farm, 2 of my barns down, it's like, we're going. And you got 200 acres there you could do something with, where if you did 2.5 acre lots, well, you're only gonna get maybe 3 or 4 houses. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm gonna do it, because I got a lot of cows cabins, so I need space.
But once again, with a cluster development, there's only one stop for,
50 kids.
yeah, well, let's
not
hope
gonna
not.
be 50.
Well,
It's
but
not.
it could, but it could.
But
Very well developed.
otherwise, you know, if every lot, then they have to stop more frequently on the road, whereas,
Yeah,
once
but,
again, it's like one driveway cut.
Well,
I'm not necessarily proposing
Yeah.
you'd want a big one
oh,
like
I
this.
mean, I see it, but the 2 acre lot, and I get where she's coming from, as far as, you know, I could take a 20 acre chunk, and you know, you get 5 house lots out of it, or 4 house lots, or you could take that 20 acre chunk, blast a road in there, and all of a sudden you got 10 houses. Of course, I'm gonna make more money on 10 of them.
well, that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because, I mean, you just look at Hopkinton, for example.
Yeah,
You know,
Hopkins,
they-
Greens, all
they-
over down
yeah,
there.
they-
Been there, done
So,
that.
well, even over here on, what is it, there's that Pond Mill Road. There's that subdivision back in the woods there.
Where's that now?
Pond Hill,
Yeah, Pond Hill, what's that called?
that's,
There's
it's up off of,
Not the Pond Hill behind my house.
Pennacook.
No. Oh, and you mean Pennacook.
And Pennacook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is we have some regulations for subdivisions, okay? So somebody, you know, who can't get, let's say you want to build 10 houses. Some developer, gonna build 10 houses. I'm gonna go after the market for people who need houses, okay? And where are you gonna find that amount of land along a road? You're not gonna find it. So you buy a bigger chunk of land. You buy 50 acres. You put a road in, you subdivide it, and develop it. And there's a lot of ways of developing it, right? This is one way of developing it. You could cut it up into
Yeah,
5-acre
yeah.
things.
Or 2,
Or 2
or
acres.
1.
Well, I mean, that's what we have to decide is, what does that look like going down the road? What do you want? What do we want as a town?
I think we should mix it up a little bit, and you know,
In the right areas.
right.
But I
Right.
think the 5 acre lot, you know, that does take away from a lot of kids that wanna stay, for sure, because, you know, you're gonna spend $80,000 for a piece of land. Now let's start and go, and they can't do it.
One of the other things on here was the thing about like a village center sort of thing.
Yeah, that was, let me just elucidate that, well, my understanding. They were thinking of something like maybe around the town hall, the school, this area here, designating that some kind of light commercial where somebody, if they wanted to put in a coffee shop, for example, or something like, yeah, Russ is saying that's a great
Well,
one.
There was
and-
much excitement over a coffee shop,
Uh-huh,
and maybe a
yeah.
bar, and as I remember it, people were just.
Well, and we
blue
should
sky.
all welcome,
Right.
well, I feel like we should welcome that. I mean,
Taxes.
any kind of business, anything to bring,
Yeah.
you know,
That's-
some
yeah.
extra revenue to the town is, because we are definitely a little special compared to a lot of towns.
Well, right now, the whole town, except for Pillsbury Lake, is zoned residential agriculture. So if you wanted to do a business, for example, they would have to go for the zoning board of adjustment, get a special permit to do that.
and 99% of the time, it never gets rejected.
But sometimes, Paul, that scares people. Do you know what I mean? If they're gonna make the investment in something, they wanna know that, I mean, I know that's what we've been through when we look at buying or selling things, is you wanna make sure that it's zoned correctly so that you don't spend a bunch of money in attorney fees and sometimes, you know, depending on the board, you know, they can reject it if they want. And I think sometimes that's I call it scary, there's probably a way better word than that. But if you're gonna purchase a piece of property and you wanna do this, and you think, oh gosh, I've gotta go in front of this board and this board, you know, you could spend all that time and money and be rejected if that's what they wanna do, because they have the right to do that.
They have the right to do that, but as in my time on the boards in town, I have never seen one yet, got rejected.
Well, that's cool, that's good, but Someday
you know,
you're gonna
once-
retire.
once
I'll tell you right now, I've been in front of some boards, it's crazy.
once it gets improved by the zoning board, then it has to come in front of the planning board.
It's just,
And then we set what we have to do for signage and parking and whatever else.
right,
That
but it's
needs to be
still
done.
costly, so when you're looking, when you're an investor and you wanna do things.
It's costly in terms of time. I mean, it takes
It
you a while
is,
to
yes.
come.
Well,
But
Time.
in terms of fees, there's really
no,
no.
no, I'm not even really blaming the town for fees, but if you're gonna have somebody representing you, you got different, you know, and we've got some big stuff happening
Well, if
coming
you're
at the
gonna-
next meeting,
I
but you know
mean,
what I
we're
mean.
not talking about a local, someone wants to build a house. We're talking about a commercial.
Right, which I think is very important, and I was just agreeing with Paul that that's great that this town has never rejected anything. I'm telling you that if I came into a town and I looked at a piece of property, and I thought, geez, I'd really like to put a cafe there, and it's not zoned correctly, the risk is greater. So if we
Well,
can limit the risk,
There again, the whole town is zoned in the same thing.
Well, that's what this last item
Right.
is all about, creating a little,
I'm
a light
agreeing with it.
commercial
That's
district.
that's right, and I agree with that 100%.
I mean, you can't put it up here, because you know, what's available for land up around here? What's available for land all along 127? So
Well-
I don't see how we can
Right.
designate a section of 127 to be light commercial for anybody to build anything. There's no land available.
Yes, that's been part of the discussion, but I think that the point of the master plan was to try to see where we could go. And it might, if we could at least say, yes, there isn't anything now, but maybe, I know, everybody who lives along 127 is
No, but-
looking at
but
that
you're
map and not
saying-
wanting to do that.
You're saying what I'm thinking, you don't never know what's gonna change.
You don't know what's gonna change.
Well, exactly.
If
I
we
mean,
don't
I
have
can
a
think
plan.
the salt shed over there is hopefully gonna go away, so that's gonna be available.
Actually, it should stay there, because we're just gonna wreck another piece of land.
Well,
And you know,
that's another discussion.
But
But
yeah,
then, there's some
that's-
elderly couple right down here.
Right,
You
yeah,
know, they're not gonna
yeah,
be there forever.
That's right.
They're gonna sell a place at some point. So there is gonna be, not right
change,
away, there is,
yes.
change will come.
technically where it should go is right where it always has been. Copots, and fix the road so they can get in and out, so it's not at the mud season, you got a load limit. Fix that road so people can use it. That ground down there is sand, flat, awesome spot. It's always been there, forever.
Yeah,
Part of that
well,
was Concord too.
I agree.
Yeah.
Emmett
Part of
didn't
that
like
was
it.
Concord too.
Emmett didn't like it because it's too far from the center. In other words, it's too far
I mean,
from there out to
this is-
the
this is-
east part.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like, I mean, that could be for commercial, but this was supposed to be like a mixed-use area.
Yeah.
It might have a coffee shop and a cafe,
Yeah, but
maybe
you
books
could,
or other stuff.
you gotta
And that-
think more than
but
just a
not-
coffee shop and a cafe. You gotta
That's
think
right.
about real reality of stuff that's all real reality, but what about what was there? You know, you had a place that was a commercial place and it got, basically, they gave up because of the road. Let's fix the road up if we're gonna do
I think
something.
that's a different issue.
Well, they gave it up mostly because the other towns around us wouldn't let them travel the roads.
The
Right, but
trucks.
if you had a road going in off this Clothespin Bridge, go across the bridge, it would be safer than what we got. Fix that road up so you got at least one road in town that you don't have a weight limit on it. Then you can, and
Well,
that area down there, you're gonna have the solar farm more than likely before this is over with, right? Is that all gonna shake out?
Well, we'll see. I haven't seen any
So,
action.
so, and then you already have, it's already started, but it's just a matter of, the reason why nothing is happening is because the road gets posted. Fix the road, fix it up.
Well,
It
we're
needs
gonna
it
have,
anyway.
we're gonna have a new
Bridge,
Postman Bridge there.
But of course, that's more industrial
I was
and,
gonna
and
say that is.
Yes.
we're really talking about more
mixed
like a
use.
village center, which where you
But
wouldn't
I-
want
I
it.
mean,
but
Right.
you gotta stop and think about a guy like myself or her, with that, we got trucks.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
And
saying
we-
the road shouldn't
we-
get
we
fixed.
bring wood in and out, and I mean, we run a,
Right.
her business is in Hennecker, mine's in Webster. And
Right.
it's like, Granted that I'm kinda grandfathered in doing what I'm doing, cause I've been there forever. But if you had somebody new come in and wanna do the same thing I'm doing, they can't do it. And-
Yeah, I wasn't
and-
saying don't
and we
fix the
need a
road.
spot to bring stuff like that in, because that's a good draw.
I think
Can
a lot of
we-
people agree, let me just make the.
Yeah, sorry.
Because part of what we did in the master plan was they'd gone over the surveys with people. You know what I'm saying? People actually gave.
Yeah, I get that.
And that, no, but, and that.
They don't
like,
want it.
No, and so, but just like other things, you gotta make the arguments for why we need it. So industrial is, I think, is a step too far right now. But you could be, there's plans, I'm just saying based
Yeah.
on what people said they wanted the town. So a light commercial, I think, would be first. Maybe we plan for that. And then,
Yeah.
I think the issues around the commercial as well. I've been to a couple of the state planning conferences, and it was one, they were showing us another town in New Hampshire, and that they had planned over years, where they wanted development. It was so cool, you know, around this street, and they aimed this, and we're not doing that, right, you know,
Well,
So
and
that's what-
they should start that. They should
Well-
start an industrial, get ready for,
okay, and
well,
you.
the
Well, it'd be
people,
it'd be
but
us.
it's not just me, I
No,
mean,
but it's
I-
us.
If you're
It's
gonna-
us. It's the planning
and
board.
you'd be part of
right,
that.
it is
And
us,
if
and
you've
I
got-
think that's what we should be focusing
So
on down
you-
the road.
Yeah, you have good ideas on that I had, and so that's what I think for a commercial area, that's, or no,
Yeah.
industrial, like light industrial, that need to kind of lay that out.
Yeah,
So
but
like with
was-
this master plan, right? I'm a little new at all this. Is that an item that we can add? I mean, I totally get what he's saying and I get what she's saying on the considering a village. Or is that something that we go in front of the town and they decide?
So I think, did the master plan get voted on by the entire town?
It has to be approved by the entire.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
yeah.
So that's why we only amend it once every like 10 years or so.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that can be notes put on there for the next time we amend it to
Right.
look into that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're what? I think it's 5 years into the current master
Okay.
plan.
But I
So-
mean, go on.
I'm just saying, that usually they suggest updating it every 7 to 10 years.
So,
So in 2018, we did a survey, and then there
Yeah.
was like 30 to 40 of us, I couldn't go to all the meetings, but a whole bunch of us came, I think you were not here, but came together and discussed all of this stuff and tried to say, this is what we would like to do. But none of it's binding, you know, it's
Right.
They
just
send
kind
out the
of,
surveys, and the surveys come back, and people voice their opinion on what they want.
right,
And that's
right,
where this list came up from.
right.
yeah, this didn't come out of thin air.
Right,
Well, it's something to actually, you know, I feel like to work on what Addie's saying. I think the other thing with the considering the village district and having some different, you know, so that if you purchase a piece of property, it's not saying it's just agricultural, it's just this, it's just that. They know that it could be, you know, they might be able to do either a home or a business, so I think that's a very good thing to work on
So,
with a mixed
Let me-
use, right?
yeah, so let me just add a couple
Yeah.
of thoughts. I see three areas that are possible here. One is down by the campground.
Mm-hmm.
Another would be here, and the other possible area would be up on the hill, up on top
Mm-hmm.
on the hill. Those are the three.
Because we already have some little business up at
Yeah.
the top with the greenhouse and the winery.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We used to have that little,
the bold
You got the
Yeah.
the church up there, and,
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean,
There's no wood yet. I'm creating jobs, big jobs. No taxes with the kids. That's where I'm at.
so let me ask you, if you wanted to do put a light industrial, meaning grocery store, cafe, blah, blah, where would you want it?
Well,
No.
we always,
That's like
we had all that at one time.
We
I
had-
know,
we
yeah.
had-
And it was, I mean, it was all, you had the coffee shop up on the top of the hill with the store. Used to have gas there when I was 16. And Then we had a store down Colebrook Campground, you know, that had a store there, and,
It's still there.
Still there.
well, yeah, but it's not really, it's not 352 days a year going. It shuts down in the winter, right? On Florence.
I don't believe so.
That's so you can
Well,
go in
it
there
might
right now
because
and
the
buy a
campground
gallon
shuts
of milk?
Yep, it might, because the campground shuts down.
Right.
Yep, it might.
So Aunt Florence used to run that one all the time. That was 12 months out of the year.
Mhm.
9 o'clock at night, you could go. But couldn't make enough money with it the way it is, so that was the end. Turned
So-
into a house.
So
And-
of those three things that I suggested, what would, if you were to choose, what would you choose?
What would I say?
Yeah.
I'd see something that you're probably gonna build and it's just gonna flop. I hate to say it, I hate being negative, but that really is in reality is what would happen. It's,
Well, I agree, but
the
the
store
point,
is not gonna cut it. It's
well, I
not.
agree, but the point is, going back to what Marlo said, you know, that if you designate it, you got less paperwork to go through.
Right, that's correct. But I think you gotta look outside of more than just 127. You know, you go down on, and I know that, you know, people don't wanna be going down through Pillsbury Lake or whatever. It's, they just wanna keep their privacy the way they are. But the thing of it is, that was there way before a lot of those new houses, and it was there a long time ago, 40 years ago. That was kind of more of an industrial area with a sand pit and Little's junkyard, and it's a perfect spot for it down there. Fix the road up, we gotta have a new bridge anyway, fix that bridge up so we can get across that thing for 50 years, you know, instead of putting in something that doesn't work, fix the road and fix it, so we don't have to post it.
But then it has to go by all those houses in
Right,
Pillsbury Lake, that
right.
are narrow road, and
Fix it, fix the road, just
we're gonna
fix
have a
that
lot
road.
of,
It was like that
objection, I
before
guess.
their time.
Yeah,
That had traffic way before their time. They moved in and all that down there was there before a lot of their time. Those used
I know,
to be.
but they're there now.
They
And-
are,
and
but
it's-
is it fair to not be able to take all of a sudden you got a perfect piece of land that would be good for commercial and that just because we got houses on it, we can't do that? Would it be fair, like if I started farming down there and all of a sudden you're hauling manure back and forth? How you think they'd like that? Not good.
You wouldn't want to farm down there anyway if it's all
Well,
sand.
no, don't ever say that, because that's a real possibility. So, they should never rule that one out. That's more real than not.
But I think, I totally agree with what he's saying. I do think and I don't know how we get that happening, that we should put that in a couple, 3-4 years, if that's what we have to wait to do it. But a master plan to have a little bit more industry in this.
I think the first thing you'd have to deal with is the zoning.
Right,
That's the first step. And industrial is different from light commercial. But that's the first thing, is we'd have to have the discussions about the zoning. What is a zoning education program? That's another thing relating to zoning there.
Well, I looked at the zoning regs before I came over here. It's about, what, 15, 20 pages
Yeah,
long.
it's not long.
But you should, as a planning board
Yeah.
member, you should read it.
yeah.
At least skim it, have an
Some
idea
stuff's
what's
a
in
little
there.
harder
but-
to understand than others. The floodplain stuff's a little difficult, but everything else is.
Yeah, but ignore the floodplain stuff.
Okay. When skim over that.
I have to call the state on that stuff.
You do?
Yeah.
So we'd have to too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
did. I did have to call the state for somebody doing a permit a while ago.
Oh, but
Work with them.
by the way, the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which we're a member of, they have some workshops during April. It's like one day over at the conference center there.
Pony.
Pony Conference
Yep.
Center. And I've gone in the past, and the town pays your fee and they give you lunch and whatever. But there are some good sessions about, so I would encourage you
And
to
any of the new members, it's a day well worth spending.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they have sessions on what is the responsibilities and
Is that what we zoomed in
procedures
on
for
this
like
spring?
planning
Yeah,
boards.
Yeah.
some of that.
I was gonna say, that's what we did on
Yeah,
Zoom,
this
right?
spring.
Yeah, and I also have a couple of videos that if you're interested on some of the zoning stuff from the New Hampshire stuff. Office of Strategic Initiatives offers some planning and zoning training that are on their website. That I can
And
send you right the link
it's
for.
usually held on a Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so we have some subdivision regulations in place now. We haven't specifically addressed clusters. Uh,
Just a quick question. Down on 127, is it Blueberry Lane?
Blackberry,
Blackberry, I've never driven back in there.
that's a housing development.
Yeah, how many houses are back there?
It's like,
1,
6
2,
lots?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think, I believe there's 8 and one more lot available.
So that's a cluster development.
That,
well,
It is.
It
It
isn't,
is.
Subdivision.
it's a subdivision.
and it isn't, because with the cluster development, you develop a certain amount of space, and then you agree that a certain amount of the space is gonna stay open.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I don't
Like
think,
in the example that they had on here,
Yep,
they got 28 acre, 38 acres.
Yeah.
28 of the acres has to be open land.
open, yeah.
So that means you got, in this particular, one that like she's got there.
Yeah.
Has 20 houses on 10 acres.
Yeah, okay.
Now that wouldn't fly with me.
No, I think that's too crowded.
Well,
We'd have to
would-
modify that considerably,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we'd have to think about what's a reasonable density. But, you know, a lot of people, particularly retired people, they don't want any land. They don't want to mow the lawn, they don't want to plow.
Nothing, bark. It's all I want is bark mulch.
So what I'm saying, you know, this type of thing works for them. It also works
With kids?
for kids. You know, you could like build one septic system for the thing. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to this for the town, for the people who want to do it. So I wouldn't dismiss it offhand, is what I'm saying.
No, I wouldn't dismiss it, but I would not like to see half-acre lots.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I
I
agree. I've seen,
Got Pillsbury Lake all over.
Well-
Would you?
Yeah, that, you'll have another Pillsbury
So
Lake,
you-
that's all you'll have, yeah.
well, do you want to specify, I mean, this is a general question there, but do you want to specify the lot size? I mean, like, on a
I
subdivision,
feel
on a
that,
sub-
I feel that would be something that we could put on the next questionnaire. What they would consider to be a lot size in the cluster development. That along with where in town would people be comfortable having this, light commercial district. I mean, it's something that we should not have to decide here.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the information we need, and the whole town should get involved in where they want this stuff. I mean, we can set a limit on 1 acre or acre and a half, but,
No, I agree. I think that's a good idea.
And along with that, look a little bit into more of the 5-acre zoning situation.
yeah.
Because, again, I feel like
Well,
that's,
that's gonna come down eventually, as everybody says, it's gonna come down eventually, but I don't know the procedures on how to lock that down. I was never involved
Well,
in knocking it
right.
up, so,
but I guess what, well, I think we'll figure that out,
yeah.
right? Because I think I think it would be a little weird to say, you can do this, but you can't do that.
I think that would just be a zoning amendment for next year if you wanted to do it. You would have to hold, like with the wetlands ordinance,
Yep.
you change the
You have to,
language, you
you have to,
hold,
yep,
Hold the
you have to-
public hearing.
hold your hearings, and then put it on the ballot.
Yeah, if you go down smaller than 5 acres, I think you should add some requirements for, you know, not being in a swamp and
Right.
Well, you go, if that passes, you're there anyway.
Well,
if
right,
you're wet.
well, we don't know that that's gonna happen.
Right, we don't, but I'm just saying.
So,
if it
yeah,
passes,
but I'm with you,
And
because
you know,
I thought this might not work out
Yeah.
so well either.
yeah, well, I
Right.
mean,
I'm
and
with you on that, Addie.
that cluster, you guys aren't gonna try to take and say where that's going, is that correct? So anybody could
No,
put
they
one
would
in.
have to come before the zoning board and say,
Yeah, this is what we're doing,
this is what we're doing. The zoning would take a look at it and say,
yeah.
we'll give you a.
Vernal pool in the middle of that's your free
exception.
open land, and we're going around it.
There is
But more
a,
or less, if you did something like this with this.
I believe there is a, down in Hopkinton, there is, almost down to Farrington Corners Road, right across the street from there is a cluster development in there. If somebody wanted to drive in and just take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is done all over the state. This is not way out there.
No,
Absolutely not.
no, it's all good if that's what you wanna bring in a
And-
pile of people.
And it, as I said.
Well,
it-
remember,
it-
you want your kids to have a place. How about
My
another?
kids, mine are set, so.
I know, but
And my grandkids
gonna-
are, so I don't really
Right.
care
We're
what,
gonna-
you know what I'm
We're,
saying?
we're
You
gonna
don't care what
save, we're
anybody
gonna save
has.
you a little house right in here.
No, that would be pretty appetizing at the farm.
That's right. Maybe we get some extra help.
Oh,
No.
the farm wouldn't be there.
Right.
No,
We'd move it all to me.
I get why I just think there's some, be some compromise on
Yeah,
the whole regulation of both.
Yes.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
absolutely.
and I don't know if you put out another survey or something saying, okay, but I think with, and very good point, Addie, where we should put some industrial land,
Yeah.
absolutely, and with a little bit of the, consider the village district, along with a little bit of clustering, and, at least making it not so hard on people that already have that big a piece of property. We don't want to also have people think, oh, all right, well, if I can't just divide it by 5 acres, I'll just do the cluster. That's not a good idea either. So I think we got to compromise. And
Yeah. Any more comments on that? Or let's talk about junkyards.
Oh, boy, another fun topic.
we need more?
This is the New Hampshire Municipal Association, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful book right here.
Well, I was wondering, I couldn't find that one online. But anyway,
You gotta buy this
I'm
one.
just going to read a few highlights from this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but a junkyard is not well defined because virtually anything can be accumulated and tightly piled. So you have to be careful. You know, what one person's junk is another person's
Treasure.
treasure.
Right, yeah. Mm.
Licensing obligations. Since 1995, all municipalities in New Hampshire have the responsibility to license junkyards at the local level, meaning that means us. This responsibility is contained in RSA Chapter 236. It applies to all municipalities whether or not there is a local zoning ordinance. There is a local licensing obligation even if the State Department of Transportation has issued a license to the junkyard facility. So, the landowner does not need to be involved in a commercial operation or even intend to sell the material. If the material is a motor vehicle or auto parts, an accumulation amounting to 2 or more vehicles is enough to require a license. So we could make a lot of money licensing things around this town.
Yeah. It seems to be getting
That would be 2 or
fun.
more unregistered vehicles.
Yes. Under state statute, it no longer matters whether the vehicles are registered. They become junk if they are no longer intended for operation on the highways.
Oh, even if they are registered. So those times that people might think, oh, well, just register it, those days are over.
That's
Yep.
right.
Ah, okay. I didn't know that. Because that becomes very interesting.
So we have an opportunity, let's put it that way, to deal with junkyards.
Mhm.
In other words, we could write our own regs regarding junkyards if we wanted to. If we, I don't know, any thoughts on this whole thing?
Can't imagine trying to enforce it. Who enforces
I mean,
it?
I thought that there, I mean, for the issues that, the apparent junkyard that is between Webster and.
Yeah,
you know,
Webster,
103
right,
there?
Right, yes. So what was done then? I assume.
Well,
that
they were, Hopkinton took them to court.
We all took them to court,
Court.
all
Right.
3 towns.
All
So
3
I-
towns, and they lost. The guy won for whatever reason. I don't know what it was.
Yes, so just a train of thought on what happened there, right? And I don't know, but you know something with this junkyard thing, with the cars, he's got them spread out. Who knows what town they're in? He might have 2 in Hopkinton, 3 over here in Warner, some in Webster.
But I guess my question is, what ordinances, what was the basis of the town suit? Was it the state, or if we didn't have
It
anything, you're
was the
saying we don't?
town. The towns got together and
The towns got together,
And took
but
it to
what was
court.
the legal basis of it?
What you're looking at right there has been the law that's been in effect since 1965.
The
But
state
this is
law,
a
the
state
state
law.
law.
The
That's what
state
I'm
law
saying.
gives the towns
Yes.
the authority to regulate junkyards.
Right, but we don't.
Without
you were
without
just
even
saying
needing
we
a
don't.
zoning ordinance.
So we don't have anything?
So we don't have our own ordinance.
Right.
So the way it looks like,
Yes.
they set some pretty loose guidelines for it. The town can be less stringent. I'm trying to, that's something I would have to ask the attorney about, but I was reading up on it in this, and they have language on it, and I provided that to you, but I think there are distance from the road requirements, like setbacks of 300 feet from a class 5 road. The town can set it less than that, but I don't think they can set it more than that, and there are certain stipulations in there.
So that guy he's,
Fencing requirements.
if you gotta be 300 feet, he's right out on the white line.
He's
Well, that's-
5 feet from the road at
Yeah.
most.
You can't even get by if there's a truck
So
there.
I
You're done.
I guess I had not understood that the town's lost. I understood that they didn't have any teeth, that they could actually affect anything. But
So,
that's my information is from family members, you know, but,
yeah.
so,
We can require them to get licensed. And that's what this talks about here. It talks about the process for setting up the licensing requirement. And I just gave everybody chapter, what is it? I gave you the document.
chapter
I'm
2.
trying to figure out what page. I know it was around 40.
I think it's 39 on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any yard or field used as a place of storage in which there is displayed public junk machinery or scrap metal that occupies an area of 500 square feet. That's what, I mean, his place is clearly a junkyard.
It is.
Farm or not.
No doubt about it. But he's beat the system by
So we
farm.
could go down to, page 40 talks about the local
Page.
requirements. 40, the local license requirements and the licensing and zoning are different. They talk about that.
I guess so the question for us is, do we want to add anything to this regs? The state regs?
Right. Maybe we should do a little research on what the other towns do.
Well, that's one of the things I was trying to do before tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's town report time, so I've been putting that together for the last 3 weeks.
me.
Pulling my
Lucky
hair
guy.
out. That just got done
Hey,
today.
at least you got
Couple
some.
hours before
Right,
this meeting. But that's why I've been going over this, because I know it's been expressed a lot by residents in town. They complain about the junkyards. And I figured,
Or what's
We're gonna
allowed
do
and
it.
what's not allowed, you know what I mean? It's like,
right,
and,
Well, it's right here.
well, from the state side of things, but where is there a compromise? Because one thing about the state is it's a tad bit
Everything
loosier.
is compromisable.
Right, right. And to be, you know, we also wouldn't want one town, I think taking the other towns and figure out what they do around us, at least somebody wouldn't say, oh goody, I can move over to Webster and do whatever I want. You know what I mean? I mean that nicely.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not saying I want to
yeah.
tell people what to do, but,
so every town in the state has the tools.
right.
Because the state adopted them. Whether the towns are enforcing them or not is a different
But they
story.
have their own set of rules too, correct?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. All right.
Sometimes.
So,
found a few towns that do.
and around us?
I would have to double check. I don't think I noticed any of the towns that are
Oh,
around us.
so even some of
Right.
our,
So that 300 foot off the pavement would be a good rule to add to ours.
Right.
And
because
then
that's one thing.
unregistered vehicles, that,
That was
you
one
know.
of the things I was unsure about, is because it says or less in the regulations. So does that mean if we have a setback that's less, for example, a 50-foot setback, would that be applicable over the 300 feet if it's not specifically laid out in the zoning ordinance that junkyards have 300 feet setback from the road, or would it just automatically go to the 50-foot? That's something I'd have to ask an attorney, but
well, even the state
I'm
was
not
saying too, that you
Okay, so-
register or not, you, the day, remember the day you always heard about the junkyard would say, oh, I'll just register them. You know, if they're old, that's
How
no
could they-
more.
How could they register them, because they wouldn't pass inspection?
you don't have to, you
Yeah,
don't
you
have
can
to
still
have your vehicle
register.
pass inspection
Yeah.
in order to get
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
registered.
the state has
You just can't
no
drive
problem
it.
taking your money.
You just can't drive.
Push it down the inspection station.
Yeah, you wanna register and can't drive it, that's your problem, right?
but see, like now, the next thing, this guy probably, he's just smart enough that he's grandfathered in.
No,
'Cause it's already
grandfathering,
there.
grandfathering doesn't apply to junkyards.
Okay, so that's cool.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
However, but lawsuits do.
Huh?
Lawsuits
So,
do.
The lawsuit did.
So I would just add that I would like to see like a fence put up.
Yep.
I mean,
Yes.
our requirements that not only they be a certain setback, whatever that is, that a fence be put up there.
Or listen, you can have whatever you want on the other side of it, you just don't wanna have to
We
make
don't wanna
people
see
look
it.
at it.
He's got a fence.
Yeah,
He's got a
well,
fence,
Well, you
we'll
could
have
set
to,
the height
we're gonna
of
have
the something.
to, not one of those kind of fences.
'Cause I've seen,
This is gonna be a bad one down there.
I mean, I've seen junkyards in other towns and they have like 6-7 foot tall fences that
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
around the whole thing.
Well,
Oh.
and there was, I happened to be at a meeting for another situation in a town over, and they made that guy
Yeah.
put a fence. They
Boss
said,
Mike.
yeah,
Main Street.
yeah, right,
Where is this?
right in
Oh,
Boston, yeah.
in Boston,
We happened to be there that
yes.
night doing another situation, and they just said, we're gonna leave you alone, but you gotta put a fence up, and he did, and I think it's been quiet. But it's not fair to the business across the street and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
By
kind of
the-
the things, we can require them to get
Yeah.
licensed. They would
Oh.
have to go to the ZBA, that's part of the process
Franklin
too.
Savings
So
Bank.
that might
It's
take some
right-
education to the
Right down
ZBA.
on the main
But
track.
we can
right
also
through there.
adopt things that we would like to see as part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we can.
This is a work job between the
Jump
select
right in
board,
there?
ZBA, and the planning board.
Got one in there, but it's not a.
And I don't think
Put a
we have to
fence
get,
up,
like you said, over
covers it
crazy,
all up,
because
and
they're just like
it is
another
what it is.
situation that's in, in front of
Yeah.
us.
Been through
But
that
we
number.
just
I
wanna,
never-
we may wanna add a few
You can
things
jump. Oh, yeah,
to
maybe
it,
I have.
to
Good.
There's the ice
help
cream,
people know that if you come to Webster and you wanna
Yeah, it's
have
right-
stuff
shack.
like that,
Yeah, right across
you're
the
gonna be
street.
required to do
Yeah.
this. Right? It's kind of
Yeah,
it's kind of not
well,
a
it should-
warning, but this is
Yeah.
what you're up
And
against.
it should be in writing,
Right.
part of the regs, not something that's ad hoc.
Right, and that would have to be, if we add it to the zoning ordinance, it would once again do the full public hearing thing.
Yep.
And go to a vote.
How would we go about, do we try to get suggestions of what people
Well,
are?
so, I mean, you could, well, that's what public hearings are for, and you can
Yeah,
also
true,
have,
true.
say the planning board's gonna be discussing this and invite people that they think, like, send out flyers, say we welcome people to come in
Yeah.
and provide feedback, you know, that's something you can definitely do. Another thing we can do is, like you said, you wanted to see what other towns do.
Yeah,
So I can compile some stuff and do some
Okay.
research and come back with it. And then we can kind of move down that line as it grows organically and figure out where we want to go once we see examples and then what the next step will be.
Right.
That's my thought.
I mean, if we go this route, we should go through all of this stuff and like do it in one shot. I don't want to do this piecemeal.
No, there again, I don't see anything in there that we need to discuss or make a decision on right now. I would pick that over and put it on the next questionnaire, to see if people still want this stuff at all, or what they feel would be an adequate lot size for this housing development thing now. No.
How was the survey handled? I mean, was it mailed to every household in town? Was it?
It does, it gets mailed out.
It was
yeah.
mailed, we got
Online?
about 200
Something like
plus
that, yeah.
Replies.
replies.
Well, you could do another survey. For example, I know somebody who works for the Grapevine, and you could put that in and say drop it off at the Dropbox. I don't know.
Yep.
Or, you know,
I was kind of thinking that's how it got out, it was put in the Grapevine.
yeah.
That saved the
And
mailing.
then there's a website they can go to also.
Right.
Right, and that, you can make that clear, and yeah, people don't wanna. But I'm kind of with, I mean, I think a lot of this stuff in here is, you know, some good idea to start at least putting together something, but.
Okay, any other issues? I mean, do you want to talk about any of these other issues, or let it go for tonight and go home?
Real quick, what is the zoning education program?
I think that was something to teach the residents of Webster what our zoning ordinance says and
Oh,
have
okay.
them understand a little bit. At least that's what it comes
Oh,
off as for me.
Sounds like, who would show up for that? Come on.
Well, right, no, that's why, Kathy, that's why I'm asking, I'm like,
That's
okay.
why I asked.
I think that's kind of like one of the
earlier.
things that the reason I work for the town is when somebody wants to know about the zoning
Right, that's what
ordinance.
you're there kind of
Yeah.
down
That's,
for.
okay. You are the zoning education program.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah, here, we'll put Russell right
More
next to that.
More responsibility, no
So
more
there's one
pay.
we could check on.
Yeah, right.
Like the vegetative, you know, buffer and
Yes,
stuff like
yes.
that. It's like,
What was that established?
yeah.
Oh, if somebody has
I
a
don't-
subdivision, they
Yeah,
have to have a
it's like
vegetative
what,
buffer.
it's like, well,
We're
I guess
talking,
I guess I'm just, you're telling me what I'm gonna do with my piece of land.
no, wait a minute.
Bottom
We're
line.
talking subdivision.
We're talking about a
Right,
Right,
subdivision,
right,
not
that's,
your own.
I am,
We
subdivision.
already have subdivision
Right.
regulations.
Do a subdivision, but I mean, do you still have to keep a vegetative buffer in?
No, not in the
Right,
subdivision.
right, but that's kind of what they're trying to protect the scenic views of it.
That, the
I
whole
don't
town
remember
wanted to do
discussing
that, not
that.
just the
Right,
planning board.
I
It was
get
the
that,
survey
but
said.
it's like you get back to telling us what we're gonna do, what we aren't gonna do with our land. And it's like, you know, that's where I have a little issue with that, is somebody that's got a little 2-acre lot, and they're gonna tell you what you're gonna do with 1,000 acres that you own.
But you wanna tell Gamble what he can do with his land.
I don't care what, I mean, as far as, you've got your 5-acre lots, you've got your rules.
What else do we have on the agenda?
Nothing.
Well, I
Don't
gotta
we need
approve
to-
some minutes, but that's
We gotta
about
approve
it.
the
Yep.
minutes, so.
I move that we approve the minutes from the 20th of January meeting.
Has anybody read the minutes?
Has
I
Rick,
just read through it now.
Yeah, I know you have, but I have.
wasn't
Has
here.
anybody read the minutes? Then we can vote on this thing?
They were sent out with the meeting announcement.
Yep. But that doesn't mean everybody's read them.
That's our responsibility.
you're right on
I
that.
mean, if you guys want to vote and say yes, that's okay with me, but
I mean,
I don't
I
have any,
reviewed them.
I don't have any problems with what's on the minutes.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I mean, that's why they're sent out, so that we review them before we come, so we don't have to read them while we're here.
Okay,
In an ideal world-
Isn't that the reason?
Well,
That's,
Yeah.
that would be the
and usually
theory of it,
somebody
yes.
doesn't
In the ideal
have to
world.
say so.
the meeting is adjourned.
So we need a
Thank
motion
you.
to close, Craig.
What's that?
We need
Need
a
a motion to
we need a
close.
motion to close the meeting.
Oh, do we have a motion to close it?
Yes.
Make a motion, we close the meeting.
I'll
Second.
it.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
See you in May.
See you in May.
Oh, March, I guess we still got one more to go, don't we, before you're taking a